the name that shouldn't exist. If you think you can handle the truth behind the world's darkest real-life mysteries, hit subscribe now, because this story will haunt you long after it ends. It was 2:54 a.m. when the call light from room 9 flickered on, a soft, steady glow that cut through the silence of St. John's Medical Center's 3rd floor. Nurse Claire Henderson froze mid-step. Her shift had been quiet until then, the kind of stillness that makes every creak of the floor sound suspicious. The problem was simple. Room 9 didn't exist anymore. That section had been sealed off after the 2001 fire that killed one patient, James Holloway. Claire stared at the monitor. Room 9, call light active. Her first thought was a system glitch. Then the patient name appeared below it in green digital text. James H. Status, critical. Her heart pounded. IT had scrubbed that name from every file years ago. She picked up the hallway phone and called down to security. "You guys messing with the system again?" she asked, forcing a laugh. The guard on duty, Tony, sighed. "Not tonight." "Why?" "I've got a call light from a sealed room," she said. There was a pause. "You mean room 9? Tony asked. Claire froze. He knew the story too. Everyone did. The fire, the patient who died after being trapped inside, the room that had been rebuilt but never used again. Against her better judgment, she took her flashlight and walked toward the west wing. The hallway lights buzzed overhead, some flickering, others dead entirely. The air grew colder the closer she got. By the time she reached the end of the corridor, her breath fogged in front of her face. The door to room 9, boarded, painted over, locked from the outside, stood waiting. Claire pressed her ear to the door. Nothing. Then, faintly, she heard the sound of a heart monitor beeping. Slow, steady. She pulled back, shaken. That wing hadn't had power in years. She radioed Tony, her voice trembling. "I think someone's inside." Within minutes, Tony arrived with the master key. Together, they pried the lock open. The stale smell of smoke drifted out. The room was empty, except for a perfectly made bed, one light flickering above it, and a call remote lying on the floor. Tony bent to pick it up. That's when Claire noticed something on the bedside monitor, a live ECG reading, labeled patient, James H. But the system wasn't connected to anything, and when she checked the hospital database again, room 9 had reappeared on the digital map, as if it had never been sealed at all. Then the power went out. The record that shouldn't exist, the emergency lights hummed to life, painting the hallway in a dull red glow. Claire's pulse raced as she held her flashlight steady on the bed. The heart monitor beside it continued to beep, faint, rhythmic, impossible. Tony muttered, "This can't be real." His voice low but trembling. He traced the cables with his hand, only to find them cut clean a few inches from the wall. The machine wasn't even plugged in. The sound kept going. Claire backed away. "Tony, that's not a glitch. Someone reactivated this system." He nodded slowly, eyes darting toward the corner of the room. The wall, freshly painted just a few months ago, had begun to bubble, as if the heat from years before had come back to life beneath the surface. The smell of burned insulation filled the air. Then Claire's pager vibrated. The message made her blood run cold. Room 9, code blue, patient unresponsive. She stumbled out into the hall. The nurse's station was empty, the rest of the floor eerily silent. When she reached the monitor bank, every room was dark, except for room 9, which now displayed a live feed. Someone, or something, was sitting on the edge of the bed, head bowed. Tony saw it too. That's not possible. That camera's been offline for 12 years. He grabbed the phone to call the security office. "Dispatch, we've got a breach in the West Wing. Possible intruder." Static answered. Then a faint whisper. "He's still waiting." Claire turned to the computer terminal and pulled up archived reports from 2001. It took seconds to find it, the Holloway fire file. It listed a single fatality. James Holloway, male, 47. Died of smoke inhalation during surgical wing fire. Body recovered with monitoring wires still attached. But below the file, someone had recently added a line of text. Patient admitted, October 14th, 2013. Condition, critical. Her hand shook as she scrolled. The same timestamp appeared on 3 other incident reports across the hospital's history. Always the same night, always room 9, always the same patient name. Tony was now pale. "We need to shut this room down," he said. But as he turned to leave, something slammed behind him. The door to room 9 had shut itself. The sound echoed down the hallway like a gunshot. They tried the handle. Locked from the inside. Then the ECG monitor inside began to spike. The beeping grew rapid, urgent, as if someone's heart was racing toward collapse. Tony took a step back. "If no one's in there," he whispered, "then whose heartbeat is that?" Outside the door, the hospital's power flickered again. The lights dimmed, and through the tiny wire glass window, Claire saw a shadow move across the bed. It wasn't sitting anymore. It was standing. The man in the system. The lights snapped off completely. For a moment, St. John's Medical Center plunged into darkness. The only sound, the shrill alarm from room 9's heart monitor echoing through the wing. Claire's breathing quickened as Tony flicked his flashlight back on. The beam caught the door window, and for a split second, a face appeared behind the glass. Burned pale, eyes open but hollow. Then it was gone. "Call maintenance now," Claire hissed. But Tony's radio came to life before he could respond. A deep, broken voice crackled through the static. "You left me here." Tony dropped the radio. Claire turned to the terminal. It had powered back on, the same patient file glowing on the screen. But now it wasn't static text. It was typing by itself. Line after line appeared in real time. Patient James Holloway. Admitted, October 14th, 2001. Still waiting for discharge. She froze. "Tony, look at this." The system's creating a live entry. He leaned closer, and for the first time noticed a flicker in the top corner of the monitor. A feed from the hospital server logs. The same message repeated hundreds of times. "Critical. Room 9. Room 9. Room 9. Then the hallway lights burst to life, and the door swung open on its own. The room inside was glowing faint blue from the emergency lights, the bed still perfectly made. The monitor beside it now displayed a pulse, a slow, steady rhythm. Tony took one step inside. The air was heavy, dense. He whispered, "James Holloway died right here. They said he never made it out." A faint voice replied, though neither could tell where it came from. "They didn't let me out." Claire felt her throat tighten. She looked down. The chart at the foot of the bed had been replaced with a new one, printed on fresh paper. The date, October 14th, 2013. The admitting nurse, C. Hartman. Her own name. She dropped it instantly. "No, that's not possible." Tony reached for the monitor's power cord to pull it out. The moment his hand touched it, the pulse line spiked. The monitor flatlined, shrieking through the silence. The lights died again, and in the faint glow of his flashlight, they saw the shape of a man standing where the bed used to be. Smoke rolled off his skin like steam. His hospital gown was charred at the edges. His ID badge, melted, but still legible, read James H. He raised his head slowly, mouth barely moving. "You promised they'd fix it." Tony stumbled backward, flashlight flickering. What fix?" The figure took a step forward. "The wiring. The alarm. You turned it off." Claire's eyes widened. She remembered. Her first year as a nurse, she'd signed off a maintenance report that deactivated faulty alarms in this very room, back before the fire. "That wasn't me," she said weakly. "That was..." Before she could finish, the fire alarms in the hallway blared to life, and smoke began to fill the air again. Not real fire, but data smoke. Thick blue haze spilling from the vents as the hospital systems went haywire. On every monitor, one line repeated endlessly. "Patient James H. Condition stable. Room sealed." Then everything went black. When emergency crews arrived minutes later, they found the West Wing untouched by flames, but both Tony and Claire unconscious in the hallway. The system logs showed no active patients, no calls from room 9. But one thing didn't add up. At 3:07 a.m., the same minute the alarms triggered, the nurses' station printed a new chart, time-stamped and signed digitally by James Holloway himself. The hospital sealed room 9 for good the next day. And yet, Every October 14th at exactly 3:07 a.m., the nurse's monitors still flicker to life, showing one alert in bold red. Code Blue, Room 9, patient unresponsive. If you think this story was chilling, you're not ready for what happens in Room 12. Subscribe before the next shift starts.